Hi, I'm Peggy, and I want to show you how to make magic beef stroganoff. This is so simple. It's going to take just a few minutes, and so I'm just going to walk you through it. Let me grab my notes here and tell you what you can do. So here I have got a mixing bowl, and I have my freezer bag standing up in it so I can fill it with the ingredients. I've got it labeled, and I am going to put in 1 can of beef broth. This is a 14.5-ounce can. I'm going to pour that in here. And then the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. I always have a hard time saying that. I don't know about you. But anyway, it's Worcestershire sauce, I think is the correct way to say it. So I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of this. And I make a mess, as you can see. So I'm pouring this over a separate bowl so I don't have the sauce all over my counter. So I have that in there, our first 2 ingredients. Okay. And then the recipe, this particular recipe calls for our Magic Chicken Original Seasoning Blend. This, even though it's a Magic Chicken Original Seasoning Blend, we are using it to make our Magic Beef Stroganoff. Now, for those of you familiar with Tastefully Simple, you know the lids of our standard seasonings are 2 tablespoons. Well, this is in a big supersized jar, and so this is 3 tablespoons. I only need 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to fill this about 2/3 full. So see, the great thing about Tastefully Simple is you don't have to measure exact. It's got to be approximate. So there I am. I got about 2/3 of a lid for 2 tablespoons. And what I'm going to do is, because I want this seasoning to really get into the liquid, I'm just going to squish it around a little bit, not so much that I'm going to puncture a hole in the bag, but just a little to get it mixed up. That's why I put the broth in before I did the seasoning. Otherwise, the seasoning tends to stick to the bottom. And then I'm going to add 1.5 pounds cubed beef stew meat. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to put that in the bag. So this actually may be the most difficult part of the whole recipe, getting this all in the bag without making a mess. And this is thawed because we do want it to be marinated in the broth and our seasonings. Because what will happen is this will go into the freezer, and then I've got that to make whenever I want. All right, so I've got that taken care of. I'm going to set this aside. Now, I want to make sure that all of this gets covered by that broth. So I just picked up the bag. You kind of just swish it around a little bit so everything gets covered with the broth and the seasonings. And now at this point, the recipe calls for 8 ounces of sliced fresh mushrooms. So, you know, I like mushrooms sometimes, but not all the time. I'm just not feeling it tonight. So I'm not going to put any mushrooms in it. That's one of the things I love about our Tastefully Simple products is we add the flavor, you add the fresh. So I put the beef in here, but you know what? If you don't want beef, do chicken. If you don't want chicken, do pork. Whatever it is you want, I've got that in here. If you want to add mushrooms, that's okay. I just tell you to swish it around very gently so you don't mush any of the mushrooms. And then all I do is lay this down, and I try to squish as much air out of it as I can, because air really is the enemy of frozen foods. So I'm going to squish this out. lay it flat. I will tell you oftentimes too, when it's got this much liquid, I will double bag it, because if even a little pinhole is there and it leaks out, it'll freeze to everything else. But there you go. I have got this made, sealed, and it's ready to go into my freezer. And that's how it'll go, nice and flat, so I can stack it with other things. So when I am ready to eat my magic beef stroganoff, I'm just going to take this out, maybe the evening before, sit it in the refrigerator so it thaws out. And then in the morning, before I go to work, I will put it in a crock pot, cook it on low for about 8 hours, and then come home, add 1 cup of sour cream, keep cooking it in the crock pot for another 30 minutes, and serve it over noodles or baked potatoes or whatever you want. And that is it. That is our magic beef stroganoff. Just a few minutes and a great meal. Thank you.